Worship Committee, and I sing in the choir, and I'll be your celebrant this morning. If you are a visitor this morning, we are so glad you're here. We welcome every person of goodwill, just as you are, whatever body you inhabit, whomever you love, whatever your age, ethnicity, or identity, you are welcome here. If you want to receive our newsletter and other announcements, please fill out the connection cards within the pockets on the backs of your chairs. Could somebody pull out a connection card and hold it up? Yes. You see right there. That's what they look like, and that will give us information that we need in order to stay connected with you. You can drop those in the collection plate or the basket in the entryway after service. We invite everyone to join us for coffee, treats, and conversation after the service, both in person or on Zoom. For the folks on Zoom, you'll find the order of service in the chat. And now, please take. As a reminder of our practices and out of consideration for those with sensitivities to chemicals, please refrain from wearing scented products to our services. So if you did that today, you won't be ejected, but for future, just remember, don't smell, okay? I now invite Julie McAllister forward to talk about the congregational meeting today after a very brief coffee hour.
Thank you. Good morning. So I want to thank you all for being here. The congregational meeting, which is our annual meeting for business and to vote for new board members, approve the budget, is going to start at 12. Everyone is welcome to stay. Only members are allowed to vote. So we will have member sign-in tables at the back where you'll get your voting stick. I see people are putting their share the plate ballots in my box back there, which is wonderful, except that the one that was in the packet was incorrect. I found out yesterday. So when you check in at the table, we will have a corrected, it's actually 2 pages, it's a front and back ballot for you. So I will get rid of any of the single page ballots, so please re-vote if you put it in there, I apologize. If you're on Zoom, there is a different login for the congregational meeting. And it's either in the packet online, or if you go to the CUUF website and use the calendar, it says congregational meeting, and there is a Zoom link in the calendar to log in. And we're asking the people on Zoom to please log in at 11:45 so that we can get you signed in as members, and you will be able to vote online. In order to vote, we do need a quorum. So I'm happy you're all here. I was getting a little nervous at 10:26. And that's it. Thank you.
We begin our worship by honoring that this is the ancestral homeland of the Piscosa. For thousands of years, the Piscosas have been the stewards of this land, fishing, hunting, gathering roots and berries, and practicing cultural traditions. They were named by the Yakima people as the Wenatchee, identifying them with the river that flows from the center of the mountains. The Piscosa were moved to the Culva Reservation and still live there. We acknowledge that their homeland has been taken over because the U.S. government broke treaty obligations and carelessly allowed uninvited white colonizers to settle here. We stand alongside our indigenous neighbors as they continue their traditions and seek to have all their rights recognized. We acknowledge our shared responsibility to sustain right relations with each other in the land. If you're interested in learning more, for more information on this subject, please visit our website, cascadeuu.org, under the Justice tab. Now,
I call us all to worship. I call us all to worship with these words, the spirit of worship. Children of the earth and the sky, we are nurtured, sustained, even given warmth and life from above and below. Let us be grateful. Supported by the earth's strong, firm crust, we build our homes, we plant our gardens and orchards, and lend and tend our fields and our trees. When we turn from the self and seek to be aware, we find holy light in human faces and blossom, bird song, sky. Then we know The earth is our home, and we are at one with all earth's creatures. All of us are ancestors of the earth's children, yet to be. Let us prepare for worship by praising all that is of worth.
Okay, this is the time in our service when we kindle a sacred flame, but do you think you might like to be seated when we move to this piece? All right. If you're joining remotely, please feel free to light your candle, your chalice, or whatever, wherever you are. We join Unitarians and Unitarian Universalists worldwide in lighting our chalice this morning. Please say these words in unison, and they should be on your screen, okay? Within the heart of each of us, a spark of the spirit of life. Within the heart of the flower, within the heart of this community, a fire that warms and dances within our chalice. Love, justice, generosity, holiness, and transportation. So be.
So we had a Worship Arts Collective meeting yesterday, and people noted that there are people on Zoom who are part of the worship, and we want that experience to feel like you're not just watching fellowship on TV, but that you're actually participating. So what I'd like all of you to do is turn around and look at the little camera that's above the exit sign. And through that camera, you can see those people, and they can see you. We're hoping... Glad you enjoyed that. But we're hoping in the future to put their faces up, that we'll put the Zoom faces up, at least at the beginning of the service. And then we can all see those people. And I think that'll really we're going to try to create more dynamic links. Because that's really what this is all about, is getting us together, getting to know one another and connect. But today we have a special celebration. Today we're celebrating those who are bridging from youth to adulthood. All of us, even those on Zoom. Since this bridge can be long or short, the bridge from being a youth to being an adult, sometimes very short, sometimes it can take months or years, we use high school graduation to mark the crossing. This is our traditional marker, the end of secondary education. Some will go on to full-time work, others will go to college, others will move on to a time of great uncertainty and variation. We honor all our people who are bridging by asking them to physically cross the stage as a symbol of crossing a bridge. In recent years, I've had a cadre of adults and other congregations arranging this event, but it was not clear when or whether we would do this ritual this year, so I apologize if I missed anything out or don't do it perfectly. Today, we're especially honoring Natalie Severson, but also Mete Vidal and in the Madsen family, and Kyla Duffy. These are all three people who've been a part of our congregation, active in our congregation, all graduating. In this ceremony, we're saying that no matter how much is changing or will change in the next few years, this congregation and the spiritual power of this community will go with each of these people. Some might be active members or friends of this congregation in times to come. Others may go on to other places and other communities, but you remain connected. You will still be part of this congregation. And I will make sure that we have someone checking in and communicating so that there's still some sort of link. It's essential that until you find another religious community, you know that you still have roots in this one. Today, you will cross this stage as if it were a bridge. As you cross, I'll give you a rose. In UU traditions, we will welcome babies and small children into the world with a ceremony called Ceremony of Dedication. I did this last week, and so I wasn't here. I was doing this for my youngest granddaughter over in Northlake, UU. And in that ceremony, we give a rose. And it was funny, the minister invited little Victoria and her family to come up. And she goes, and all her extended family. And the minister didn't realize there were 9 of us there. So the stage was kind of crowded. But it was wonderful to feel community, the extended community present in the ritual. And she also noted that when we honor babies, we take all the thorns off of the rose. We give them a rose, and we use the rose to bless them. But she said we take the rose off to represent the fact that we're going to try to protect children. We want to protect children in a way that will allow them to thrive and nurture and grow. But when we give a rose to a graduate from high school, there's still at least one thorn on it. It's a few thorns on these roses. We keep the thorns on to say, now you must be able to find the resources to protect yourself, know how to use the community to be safe in the world. The thorns will be there. Good luck. That's right, exactly. Well, good luck, and we're still here for you. That's the point. So, though they couldn't be here with us today in person, we're going to honor the accomplishments and bridging of Meitan and Kyla. There will be some time. I also ordered the gifts that I wanted to give a little late, so I'll be giving them later on behalf of you at some point. Today it's a rose, and so now I want Natalie to come forward. No one else is here, right? There's no one else who's graduated from high school is here, right? I'm just making sure. Okay, so Natalie, come up here, come up the bridge. Got to go, there's a troll under here, right? So you've been involved in this fellowship for years. You've joined our paid staff to help nurture children. You've been a part of the parties in this congregation and the life of this congregation. Your whole family has been. I really wanted to honor those who have nurtured the youth group recently. Mrs. Kunrad and others who have gathered you together, and now that group is breaking apart and has not been meeting, I still want to emphasize how important it is that you're connected. You're still connected, even without that group. And then, the work you've been doing as a care person is really important. So I wanted to give you this rose of thorns down there at the bottom, and that represents our continued love for you, the encouragement of you, the strength and power that we hope will go with you as you go into the world. So I can give you a little hug, and then you can go back down on your journey. Today is our flower ceremony, an annual service in which we affirm our connections as a community. All the connections we try to make in this flame ritual, the candle ritual, in our circle suppers, in our conversations, in our coffee hours, in our random meetings, and all the things that we do together, the ways in which we connect. The lyrics of the song I chose to explain the ritual is the one that's, from you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and by this we live. And it begins by affirming what we receive. Listening to people I've met people who say, well, I really like Unitarian Universalism, but the work of getting up every Sunday and taking out an entire hour or more every Sunday is just a little much, and I'd rather have that day free. But once you see what you get from being a part of the community, what you get by listening to the lives of others and connecting with others, you become addicted to that experience of community and connection. And that is what was represented in the flower ceremony. Ceremony began in one of the largest UU congregations ever to exist. Before UU, it was Unitarian, just Unitarian congregation, and this was the church in Prague, the capital of what is now the Czech Republic. And then it was in Czechoslovakia. 900 years ago, just over 100 years ago, 1932, the minister, Reverend Norbert Japek, noted that the congregation tended to scatter and not show up as much on Sundays as the warm summer months came. People start traveling. And other UUs later saw the same kind of ritual going on. Reminds me of a story. There's this guy got stranded, a shipwreck, stranded on a small island. He spent there 5 years, all alone. 5 years he was there. And then finally, people were sort of passing by and didn't really notice and weren't paying attention. And finally, this ship comes up, a patrol ship comes up, and the captain gets off and wants to congratulate this person for his survival and learns his story a little bit and wants to kind of honor him before he takes him on the ship. He says, well, you've done a lot here in 5 years. And the guy, he says, oh yes, I'm very proud of my life. And he says, why have you built 3 buildings? Like, what is this building for? The big one. And he goes, oh, that's my house. That's where I and the cat and the rat, who all survived, we all survived together, and we have been living there for 5 years. And he goes, oh, that's really nice. So what's the other building you have there? And he goes, oh, that's my church. That's where I worship every Sunday. Worship has given me strength. It gives me hope. It gives me power. And then he says, and then the captain says, well, what's that third building over there? And he says, oh, that's the church I used to attend. In the ancient city of Prague, Reverend Čapek not only wanted people to remember their connections during the summer months, but to reaffirm and find a deeper sense of connection. And the people in that church in 1932 were very ambivalent about the Christian ritual of communion. Communion is a way of affirming that we are connected, that there is something that binds us together in that particular theology, and especially conservative Christian theology. And he wanted something that would echo that, something that would make it tangible and present in the lives of people. And he noticed that the Unitarians in Prague loved growing flowers. Lots of them did. There are many florists and growing of flowers and sharing of flowers and bringing flowers to worship. And so he said on one Sunday, he asked everyone, waited till the season where it seemed like there would be the most flowers, and he said, bring a flower to the service. And then they would gather a single vase and put all of those flowers into that vase. And then he said at the end of the service, take a flower, but not the one you brought. So the ritual ends with receiving and honoring what you receive, and it begins with the giving. But always it's that receiving, the sense that we get something and we connect to something and we grow and we flourish and we bloom because of this fellowship, because of the connections. And that there is a great power. It's the power in all human lives to connect, to create just and loving communities, to make this world a beautiful place with our intentions and our acts. Of course, this story is not just about 1932, Czechoslovakia, gets on to 1942, the world changes. And there's evil in the world. We were talking about this in the worship service last week, about human actions. And Norbert Čapek continued to remain connected to other Unitarians in the world as the Nazis came in to Bohemian. Czechoslovakia was being taken over, and he still kept trying to talk to people, listen to radios, to get on the news, so they put him in a prison. Even in the prison camp, with Jewish people and Unitarians in this prison camp, he would point out the flowers. He would note the wildflowers that were growing along the edges of the barbed wire fences. And he tried to create something of the flower ceremony where people could go pick a wildflower and bring it together and affirm their goodness and their community to do something that said we are still human and we are still connected. This is the same time when the Unitarian Service Committee was working to help people escape from oppression and prison, to avoid getting stuck in prison camps, helping people affirming people of all different backgrounds. All sorts of people, not just the Jewish people, gay people, the Roma, all being shoved into camps and degraded and belittled and told they were nothing. And it was during that time that the symbol of a fire in a cup, the chalice is a drinking cup, there's a flame in it, and an artist came up with this beautiful idea because they needed something to put on the safe spaces that we Unitarians are creating and on our supplies. So when you see the flame, when you see this flame, remember it's about a light in a really, really dark time, and it's about forming community and loving people and affirming the dignity and worth of human beings in the midst of those times where people don't want to do that. That was in that ceremony. The flame, Maya, his wife, was a very active leader in the Prague church. She could see that she was going to be in a camp sooner or later. And so she got herself out of there. She went, but more importantly, it was not just for her own safety. What she really wanted to do was raise more money, raise more power, raise more awareness of what was going on as the Nazis took over Europe. And so she came to the United States of America and was kind of organizing, and she became involved with the congregation in New Bedford, Massachusetts, raising people's awareness of what was needed and how desperate the situation was. America at that time was still very isolationist. We were still being, oh, we've had enough of war. We'll just let those crazy people there deal with that stuff. But what she wanted to do was help as many people as she could, to create true community outside of those terrible war-torn spaces. And she, in that act, connected with that congregation and gave the flower ceremony to that congregation in Massachusetts. And then the people in that congregation started sharing it with others. And they started sharing it with more, and it started to spread across. No one ever said, oh, we're going to now do this as, so the bishop or the pope of Unitarianism says, oh, this is a... People just saw. There was something about sharing flowers, of bringing a flower into worship, and then leaving with one that someone else brought that was powerful, that was significant, about community, building true community, that beloved community that's bigger than just the fellowship, but all the connections that we make in the world. It's part of a way of affirming that you, like the song, you have seeds and you can plant seeds in the world and that they can blossom and bloom. I remember a group of, the first congregation I served, there were 3 people, me and an elder woman and then a middle-aged man. And the elder woman had had these experiences when her father had died that affirmed to her the existence of a spirit after death. I'm much more of a Buddhist, so I'm kind of more about the endurance of all things and that I don't exist unless everything else exists. And I talk about the continuity. That was kind of more my theology. And then there's this other guy who's truly a scientific positive atheist. And he was really an atheist against theism. He saw it as a danger to the world and wanted to get rid of it and anything that was kind of associated with that, including the idea of spirits. And at first he was kind of caustic to her. And she was sharing these experiences with me. And then I would share my experiences with her and with him. And then there was a moment where he had a horrible urinary tract infection, and I went to visit him. And his mind and his heart began to change and open. And her mind began to be more tempered, listening to the words of science in a way that didn't deny the value, it was her father's life, that didn't deny any of that, and yet expanded it. And all of us grew in that conversation. All of us grew in our ability to be more appreciative of the different ways in which we engage with life and find meaning together and create community. This ritual reminds us to think of all the ways in which we are connected, all the ways in which we receive from other human beings. And you can receive, I could hear it last night in this little circle supper, you're getting together, potluck supper. People were sharing poignant stories, powerful stories, connecting to one another, getting to know one another. There is a power in that that can never be fully understood, but we'll try to represent it in this sharing of flowers ceremony. Not just our similarities, not just being of like mind, but crossing the bridges of difference to scatter seeds and grow love and community in this world. So what we're going to do now, if you didn't bring a flower, you need to look at the flowers that are going to come forward and choose one that's going to represent you. There are some small little wildflowers back there, and there's some big, happy dahlias and other things, roses. You can choose which one you want to represent you. And then remember that you're not going to take that one in the ritual, but you're going to look at all the others, think of all the other people. But right now I need people to get engaged. It's an all ages service, so I intentionally put an action in the middle of it so that the children will not feel like they're just sitting there listening to adults blab on. I wanted to have a moment to interact. So we're going to bring this table forward a little bit, moving the music over here, and then I want people to volunteer, greeters and others. You can move that slightly that way. Doesn't have to come that far. As long as, now, the flame, we have the flaming chalice as a symbol of our community. Flames are dangerous. This is a dangerous symbol. It's a powerful symbol. Fire, we know how destructive fire can be. Deb's trying to get that one wayward candle not to cause any serious damage. Yes. Sometimes our grief will rise up, sometimes our joy will rise up and disrupt things. That's okay. But now I need the flowers that we brought in and put together all on one table to come up to this table. So I want people to volunteer to go back and grab a vase or another vase and come forward. And as we do that, think about which flower is yours. Think about which bloom represents what little you gain or you bring to the congregation, or what abundant time and energy you bring. And some of the blooms are not just single blooms, but whole stems full of color and life. May these flowers go with us as reminders, messengers of this community, of all that we gain from being a part of this community and all we wish to give back, not only to these people, but to all the people of the world. So may it be.
The offering is an ancient element of worship. No matter the amount, giving is a spiritual practice expressing our thankfulness and generosity, regardless of the amount. We live these values in abundance. Joyfully sharing our gifts and strengths in service to the greater good, we create the beloved community. We live these values in abundance. We will now receive the offering. Your generosity blesses us. May your gifts make a difference in our community through the ministries of this church. Thank you. Now let us rise and sing, "You Belong Among the Wildflowers."
This is a little wildflowery, a little bridging thematically.
We are all flowers blooming in the beauty of this world. Let us give our beauty abundantly. Let us share it fully. Let us find the places where we are free to create love and justice. So may it be. Amen.
Okay, the chalice flame has continued to burn this hour as a symbol of this community. We will extinguish the flame after speaking these words in unison. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Right? Our tradition is to join hands and make a circle as we sing our closing song. If this is not comfortable for you, simply put your hands on your heart and connect with us that way, and we will respect your boundaries. We should maybe put these roses up there if somebody would like to have.
So I want to remind everyone